Sheila. Thank you, band. They're amazing, aren't they?
Yes.
Give it up. I see you want to. That is an original song that Sheila wrote. She's a wonderful writer and a wonderful musician, and she's got that bashful look on her face right now. She's just amazing. I think she was here, Jessica would probably remember, I think Sheila was here the very first time I spoke here at Soul Center, and I've been coming here for a little over a year now, so I don't take it lightly. I'm really deeply grateful that I'm consistently invited here, that special friends that I've met on this journey here that I wouldn't have met if I hadn't come to Soul Center before, particularly come when I'm here.
Yes.
So I'm really grateful for all of you and for your presence. And you know, I did something the last time that I was here, and it was fun, so we're going to do the same. I've seen some people who were here last time. So we started talking last time when I was here about what you do when you get excited. So I see some of the people are looking around like, why is everybody stomping on the floor? And so we talked last time just a little bit about, you know, we go to spiritual communities, we go to church, or we go to temple, or we go to mosque, wherever we go, and we have a particular way that maybe we think religion is supposed to be. It's supposed to be in this capsule. So what I do is, you know, I did it last time, it felt good. I see you guys liked it, so you already started doing it. So when I'm talking, if I say anything that you resonate with, I don't necessarily want you to hold back. I want you to, it's okay to nod. Nodding is always okay. And even no, if we're agreeing with a no, that's good too. I'm also okay if you disagree with me, that's okay too. But if you hear something that resonates with you, if you were out with your friends and somebody said something that you really agreed with and they were like, oh my God, that was a point, how would you react?
I love it, Jason!
Exactly. You know, are there any sports fans in the room? Southern California has a football team. My Southern California football team is still in the Bay Area. They're nomads, of course, the Raiders. But we have the Rams here. We have Anaheim fans. We've got any Ducks fans out here. You know, sports, people, when they really love something or when they really see something great, what do you guys do in sports when you get excited or something? Whatever it is, whatever you do, if by chance I happen to stumble into something that you like or agree with, I don't want you to feel like you have to just kind of hold back. Let me know. Let your community know that that's something, because sometimes when that happens, the person all the way on the other side of the room will turn into you and they'll look at you and there's no judgment. They're like, you too? Oh, I'm glad I'm not the only one. Because we're in community now. You know, we're in this sacred space together.
Yes.
So with all of that, Soul Center's been working with a beautiful topic for the month, and it was, I believe it's Behind the Mask. And the topic for today, for me, it really comes from a journey that I've been on my whole life. And it's really a journey that we're all on. And so the title is simply The Hidden You Revealed. And a lot of what happens in life, I'm learning continually, is that we have this idea, this expectation of how things are supposed to be. We generally get that all from somebody else. So oftentimes, we're walking this walk and we're having this journey and we're children. That's generally how we all start.
Yes.
And our parents, or whoever is raising us and our guardians, are pouring information into us. And we're just a vessel. And so between what they're telling us and teaching us, literally and explicitly, between the things that we learn because of our experiences with them. So I'm in a communications class, and one of the things that Dr. Jane is teaching us in this class is about the things that children and infants learn, you know, just because of the experience. They have an experience that they haven't processed yet. They don't have that cognitive ability yet, but they reached up to mommy or they reached up to daddy and they got a no. That's an experience for them. And there could be good reasons for parents to say yes in this moment and no. So we don't want to suddenly condemn that behavior. But then they could be getting something where they're trying to communicate something to the parent and the parent just doesn't know it yet. And if they're repeatedly getting that experience, they're learning something. They're learning that either this is the way to get mommy's attention or it's not. What's also interesting I've learned is that infants are also having the ability to lie. They have that ability to trick us. They test us. They don't do it on purpose with an intent. They're just being playful and they're interacting and they're seeing, well, I did this one day, maybe I can get this same response today, but they don't have that long reasoning skill. So that's very challenging and can be awfully frustrating to parents because parents have their whole reasoning skills. So if they were the ones doing that behavior and if that's how they were approaching it, this would be their thought behind it. And then sometimes we project that onto the child and that creates a different sort of energy and interaction between the children. So as children, we're learning things, we're growing. And what first begins to develop from the infant stage is our body. So we become very familiar with our body temple. You know, we start moving it, we put our fingers and even our feet. Remember when you could put your feet in your, you don't remember. But you could once upon a time put your feet in your mouth. Donovan might. He's kind of flexible, he's a big guy. We might have some yoga instructors in here. But you know, you can do that. But then this next part of us that gets developed is our intellect. So we start learning words, we start identifying people and shapes and all that kind of thing. The third part of us, which is probably the last part and the only part that we have to intentionally develop, is our spirit. So we're body, mind, and spirit. We exist on at least these three planes. And so our body we're developing as a natural consequence of being born. Our intellect is developing. There's a part of us that also exists and experiences life through emotions and feelings. That part is developing along with the intellect. And at the same time, our spiritual aspect is the part that we have to be introduced to. So we could be introduced to it explicitly, like we could have teachers. Some of us went to temple as children. Some of us went to church as as children. Some of us went to the mosque. Some of us went, a friend of mine says his church was the beach and nature. So as a child, he recognized the vastness and the infinite in nature. And that was his temple. He was a little kid. He's a California guy completely. So he surfed. And then he went up into the hills of the mountains and he communed with nature. That was his connection. And so these are the ways that we're kind of introduced and we're going into the world. And so we're in this flow. And suddenly we start obtaining labels. So one of the first ones we get, everybody wants to know, is it a boy or a girl? It's a label. Now mind you, as we enter into this existence, we're neither. We're spiritual beings and we're entering into a human incarnation. This is one of the things that we must also embrace about God. We come through a society where most of the time that we've been introduced to God is through men and through man's male interpretation of God. And so we've had that. Our girl Sheila back there. Does anybody know Pippi Longstocking? She's sitting there in Pippi Longstocking, right? She got the leg going and everything. So we have this view of God that we've been given. And if God is everything, how can it not be both? Yes. In order for it to create male and female, it must hold whatever the vibratory frequency energetically is of man, of masculine, and it must also hold the energetic frequency of whatever woman or the feminine is. It must be both. And so unequivocally, we must be really clear about that. And for some of us, that shakes up our whole world. Sometimes I get into the phrase where when I'm reading certain books, and I know that they were written, more than 10 years ago where this kind of dialogue was happening on a regular basis, I just have to transpose the pronouns. So in one sentence, I might do he and she as the author refers to spirit. Or I might just transpose it all together and pull out the gender and just use it. because I'm not afraid to recognize that it's something that is even beyond those two pronouns. It's infinite. Or another great word is it's the ineffable. It's beyond description. We can describe God or the divine presence or the divine mother or the divine father all day long, all night long, just like Lionel Richie. And we can still not get to the end of it, right? So that's what happens. And so we have those first two labels, male, female, boy, girl, placed upon us. Think about just for a moment what you picture as boy. And now think of all the things that boys are that you just didn't picture. Now think about girl. And we're going to do the same thing. Think about all the things that don't immediately come to mind for you when you think about girl. There are a lot of limiting ideas that come along with labels. And so that's one of the challenges of the human journey, is to not get stuck in our labels. I've got a friend right now who is a mother. And so one of her biggest things that she's wrestling with is not being so-and-so's mom. Right? So sometimes as a mother, you feel like you lose your identity because you become the mother of this child. So I was sharing this story with a friend of mine, BT, this morning, and his son is an actor. They're actually both actors. So what was funny is when Marlon was a young man and he was taking his father was taking him to auditions, he became Marlon's dad. Saying, "Oh, Marlon's dad, go stand over there." His identity was completely stripped away from him in that moment, because in one way he's being identified by that person. So in a minute we're going to get to the idea of who tells us who we are and how we deal with our own identity, because that's really what starts to happen. So if you go to a certain college, I'm a very, very proud alumni of Florida A&M University, so whenever we talk about Rattlers or whenever any of that kind of stuff comes up, my chest, that's not how my chest goes. My chest goes this way, right? I think Donovan is like this. Yeah. I clearly haven't been using it much. But my chest puffs out and I rise up because I have a lot of pride when I see the alum from my school. And we have lots of jokes amongst the rival schools and things like that. USC alum are the same way, UCLA, Berkeley, all the schools, the people who love their schools, we take on that label willingly, and it comes with it, except for when our school has a scandal. And so then we don't want to be a part of Penn State this week, or, we don't, that's a part of it, because really we feel it. And I never would have thought that when the marching band at my school got in some trouble, it would have weighed on me to not continually be in a perpetual state of loving thought about my school. Because then now I have to deal with some of the less beautiful things that my school's going through, or whatever it is. So we could be talking about corporations, we could talk about jobs. When you go into the two particular industries, you become a lawyer. Boy, that comes with a lot of labels, doesn't it? People need lawyers and they love lawyers, but boy, they talk almost as much trash about lawyers as they do used car salesmen. But when you need a good lawyer, you're happy. When you need a good car salesman, used car salesman, you're happy. So there's all of this energy that comes with labels. And then what happens is we're going through life living according to all of the labels and titles we've been given. Now you may be a husband, now you may be a wife, or you may be single over 40, or you may be single over 50, or you may be divorced, or you may have a diagnosis of cancer or HIV. All of these things become labels. And here's the thing, not one of them is the truth about any of us. None of them. Not one. And we can talk about all of them. We can keep talking about them. But I think you've got that part. But the problem is, we live in a world where they are kind of useful. It's kind of cool to be able to go into the grocery store and ask for an apple, and somebody to be able to say, "This is what apple." You're not getting a watermelon. As much as I would take the watermelon, if I'm looking for an apple, I'm good. I'm not sure if anybody makes watermelon pie, but I know they make apple pie, and that might work for me. But so these things are helpful. If I need a doctor and I call for somebody for a doctor, I don't want them to send me a chiropractor of a different kind, or a different kind of doctor, right? A different type of physician. So there are all these things and all these labels that are useful. Now, for a moment, think about the way that you see and identify yourself. And just think about it for a moment. Think about when you introduce yourself, what are the first maybe 5 things you tell a new person that you've ever met? Oftentimes it's your career. Sometimes it's maybe where you're from. And maybe it's where you live now, but not necessarily where you're from. Because some people don't necessarily love the place that they're from. You know, they might talk about where they live now. Some of you may talk about who they may know you know, from so-and-so's brother or sister. And so you still identify yourself as labels because, again, they're useful. You know, this is not the anti-label sermon talk, right? You know, tear off all your labels. Like, you know, now they have the no-label Hanes t-shirts, and that's supposed to be better. Okay, I guess. Didn't bother me that much. But, you know, they're going to try to get you to buy that shirt one more time. Buy another shirt. This one's better because it doesn't have a label. Now, the reality is, for many of us, until we consciously take on a practice of self-discovery, until we consciously take on a practice of our own self, of observing ourselves, we're ruled by these labels. And I mean that specifically. Some of us are so driven to attain a label, to become a doctor, to become a mother, to become a husband, to be a good Christian, whatever the label might be, that we do so much to attain the title that we lose who we are. So we become whatever people say this should be. So whatever a good Christian looks like in Mississippi, people in Mississippi that are holding that label are trying to be that. Whatever a good mother is like in Orange County, there are some people trying to be whatever that is. And whatever these labels look like for each of us, we're trying to pursue them as opposed to trying to pursue the truth and the greatest expression of who we are. So you imagine if you have a garden, nobody's telling the roses who they are. There's a seed that's planted. All of the nature is doing what it does, water, soil, and everything else. And the seed of the rose only knows how to do one thing. It roses. That's all it does, is it roses. And when it's not ready to rose, it don't rose. It seeds. It continues to be the seed of a rose. But when it's time, it begins to rose. The same thing with lilies and daffodils. The same thing even with ivy. Some of you guys are probably trying to get ivy to stop growing in places. And some people want ivy all over their fence because they don't want the ugly brown fence to show. All of these things, time and place. The right time, the right place, location. You never know when you may want that to be the thing. Right. Now you are individualized expressions of the infinite. Right. No single label will ever define you. It's impossible. So that means if you lose a job, you have not lost yourself, and you don't become yourself because you get a job. You get accepted onto a team, right? But the thing is, you gotta know yourself. If you get accepted by a group or an invitation to this fancy party, it doesn't make or break you. Now, you may have more opportunities at this party because you get to rub elbows with some people, but you could also hold in your awareness that wherever I am, I can still meet those people. They don't live, sleep, and breathe at that one party. They also go to grocery stores. I've met amazing people in the randomest places. Literally was in Subway getting a nice healthy sandwich. A very nice healthy sandwich the other day. And a guy was in there and he was ordering a couple things and he just turned around and he was like, "Oh, look, my name is Luis, handyman. He just had a little accent, that's probably close. And he just passed out his card. I was like, the last guy that I had as a handyman that I referred to a friend didn't work out so well. I might if it comes up. Now I've got Luis in my pocket. Well, not right now. But I've got Luis's card, right? You never know what might happen. So as you look at yourself, you owe your own destiny, at the very least, to do regular self-reflection and deep inquiry. You must look at all the ways that you identify yourself, all of the ways that you show up into the world and acknowledge them. And some people, they have labels and they use the labels to beat themselves up. Because they are a mother, but they don't think they're a good mother, so they just beat themselves up at every chance they get. Anytime they're not exactly the mother that they think they should be. So even then, you've got to say, I am a mother, and you must say that I am the best mother that I can be, and that I'm continuing to become the greatest mother that has ever mothered as me. And you can only do that when you allow yourself, one, to release all the expectations, to release all of the limiting ideas that other people have given you. You can open yourself to learn all the aspects of what a mother is, and then take them on for yourself. Because some mothers are not great cooks, but they can prepare a wonderful table and a meal. That's just true. That's just how some people are. Maybe it's just the patience with the timer. They're just not willing to sit there long enough. Whatever it is, that's just not their thing. Well, some mothers are great at styling their children and knowing that this is how I want my kid. My boy Brian, when I was in college, as I look back, when he was in college, he was a good dresser. But as I look back at some of the childhood pictures, I was like, boy, you learn how to dress from your mama. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. It sounds funny to say, but his mother, that just was her thing. Lily Thomas could dress her son, and he has been a good dresser, and you should see his two sons now. They are even better dressed than he was. They actually generally look better than Brian now, and they're like 7 and 6 years old. I mean, he's got them their clothes are a little cheaper, so he can style them out. So when you're looking at yourself, you're looking at yourself in all the different ways that you express, right? So I teach a program, it's called Freedom Through a Structured Life. We talk about the different life structures. So some of them are your ego. And so your ego is not a thing to get rid of. It's a healthy part of who you are. It's a part of your existence. It's not like your thumb where you can touch it. It's something you have to get to know and understand. But it's a part of you that has helped you understand fight or flight. It helps you understand self-preservation. It helps you to take care of yourself. And you can have a healthy ego that balances you out. But you have to do that. You have to develop that. That does not develop on its own. You have your financial aspect of your life. You have your health. You have your community and how you're involved in your community. You have your relationships and all the different ways that you relate to people. You have your spiritual practice and all the ways that you practice your meditation, your prayer. Maybe you're doing meditative walks. Whatever you're doing, you have this opportunity to look at self. You have your own mind. And we separate mind from ego because your mind is the part of you that you're consciously taking thoughts. You see your thoughts and you're filling your mind with education, enlightening yourself on different healthy ways of doing things, or stronger ways of doing things, or better ways of doing things. And so you have that part of yourself that you're nourishing. So you've got to look at all the different aspects of you. So when you're looking at yourself and when you're trying to figure it out, what you realize is you've just been hiding all along. You've been simply hiding behind all these other things that people have told you you're supposed to be. You're hiding behind even the things that your parents, in their best intentions of being your parent, gave you. Some of them are yours. Some of the things that your parents gave, generally most of us that had healthy parents who could give us healthy amounts of love and patience and things like that, because every parent is in a different space and stage, and they are still the right parent for that child. That child is just going through a different journey. You just have to look at it differently, because we've got people in different communities, different nations, different situations, and there are no accidents. So when we separate that, we can hold every child, every person's journey uniquely, that they're getting exactly what they need that's going to go for their soul's fulfillment.
Yes.
All right? So, I know it's a little con. You had to think about that one. Yeah. All right, I'm with you. So, as we look at these things and as we sort of take them apart and we strip them down, then what's revealed is the truth of who you are. What that comes from is through divine inspiration. That's the part that emerges through the divine inspiration. Part of you gets concealed away. You know, you enter into this conscious existence and you don't have a memory of eternity. You don't have a memory of any life that you might have lived on another journey, on another planet, in another plane, however you see it. But what you do know is every new experience, and the one thing that Einstein will tell you, and that all of the great scientists will tell you, is that energy is neither created nor destroyed. All energy exists. It just exists. So the entire universe is energy, frequency, and vibration. And so if all of that is happening, we are now vibrating and energetically in this field, in this plane, in this body temple, and it's doing what it does. And now, when we're coming in, those things that have been concealed from us are now being revealed. But they're only revealed as you take away the limiting ideas, as you strip down the thought patterns, whether it's a behavior, whether it's just a limit that you see in the world. One last thing. And I don't know if I mentioned this when the last time I was here and I had just returned back from Egypt. One of the biggest things that I realized, and I was telling a friend about this yesterday, is like I have a tattoo on my arm of an Egyptian figure. And when I got that tattoo, this was before I ever got to Agape, before I had ever entered into this teaching, I never even imagined that I'd actually see the real thing on the wall. It never even entered into possibility for me. I thought it was beautiful. It represented something that I resonated with. I don't even know if I allowed myself to be interested in it. And yet, I saw original expressions in the most exquisite carvings that were 6,000 years old. And my community helped me to get there. And I realized, as I stood before the great temple of Giza and as I looked back at a couple of the photos, that truly the biggest thing that has been revealed for me was the infinite possibilities. Like I use that in prayer all the time. But sometimes we use language and it fits and it works, but how it lands and rests in us is just different. So when Sheila's over here speaking about infinite mind, go think mathematics and think that there are numbers like pi that have no end. We could write pi on every square inch of this room, all the way down, all the way down. We could write it and write it and write it, and it would never stop. Now recognize the same is true about your brilliance, about your beauty, about your perfection, about all of the gifts that are you. The same is true. You are exquisite. There is perfection in you, in exactly the way you are, with the exact number of wrinkles, the exact number of pounds, with the exact arm span, with the exact limp, whatever it is. You are perfect. You must understand this. Because you didn't get the limp by accident. The number of circumstances that had to unfold to get you there is immeasurable. A scientist could do the number. I just don't want to. So I use immeasurable. I cheat. But it's that precise, this existence. And so today, as you go out into the world, allow the hidden you to simply be revealed in every moment. Question, how do I see myself as a woman, as a man, as a mother, as a father, as a friend, as a son, as a daughter, as a divine emanation of the perfect, exquisite author and architect of the universe? How do I see myself? And next question is, am I willing to be that? Are you willing?
Yes.
Thank you. So this is now my time, my joyous time. We're going to do two things. We're going to do our conscious giving. So our ushers are going to go in place at this moment, and you're going to think consciously about Soul Center. And you're going to think about what this community means to you. You might think about what the word that you heard from Spirit through me means to you. What does it mean to have a sacred place like this to come together in community? Where young,